Good morning everyone and welcome back to Piccadilly Sidings. Now this is the day I've been waiting for quite a while. The day we actually start doing some scenics and getting something real on the layout, if you like. Now I just want to thank everybody who responded to the Facebook question with regard to a second platform in this area here, and it was there were three options. There was put a full platform in but disused and overgrown. The second option was have the platform sort of there but sort of partly dismantled and again very overgrown. And the third option was just leave it without a platform at all, or just maybe some odd remnants to indicate there once was a platform, but essentially nothing really to speak of. Now it came out really that 1 and 2 were pretty much there was nothing in it, to be honest with you. It was one vote between them. So what I am going to do is build the platform, but then make it so that it's like the tarmac's all peeling up. There's lots of weeds growing through it. I'm just going to dismantle this end of the platform so it looks quite dangerous and, you know, unsafe, that type of thing. Eventually, I'm going to have to look at it, but if I can get a footbridge and paint that up so it's all rusty looking, and then put a fence in front of it and just make it look as if it's a really, really run-down platform or run-down station, I think that could look quite good. So I'm going to make a start right now. I'm going to start building the platforms, and I'm going to do it in a slightly different way to what I normally do on Piccadilly, that is, and that's build the platforms out of card and then put the whole thing on. I'm actually going to start doing it by building it up from the base and building it up. I'll show you and you'll see exactly what I mean. Okay, I'll speak to you in a minute. Okay, welcome back. Now, what I've done is I've cut a load of strips 18mm wide, and accounting for the 2mm thickness of the cork, I turn that round, put that on the top. That will then bring us up to the 18mm height for the platforms. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick that down like that and then build webs going back, and then the scenery will be built along the similar lines around it, ready for papier-mache. But what I'm going to do is, this is not going to be the final surface because I want to face everything. I'm going to experiment with different ways of creating the brickwork, so I can get some 3D element into it. It's very difficult at the moment to buy anything, so the Slater's plasticard is a little bit out of reach, if you know what I'm saying. That would be a good option, but it's not really a practical one at the moment with the situation around us. So I'm going to see if I can make it. If I can't, I'll probably end up using the card, but we'll see how it goes. Okay. Now, what I need to do is then work out where that is going to go. So what I've done here is to make up a double thickness of 2mm grey board. So that's obviously 4, and the back piece being the structural piece, the front piece representing the actual finished surface, if you like. 2mm for the top, and that's just to stop it from falling over. Now, if I put that on there like that, and then run the 1/5/8 in, this being my longest train, obviously. Now, actually, that works out pretty good. I'm looking around about 2 mil, 1 mil to 2 mil away from the platforms, and I think that's probably going to be about right from what I'm gathering from different, just by putting that up against the train. But I need to know how far from the edge of the sleepers to the middle of that piece is. Now, measuring that, it works out at about 1 centimetre. So what I've done is I've made up a little jig, if you like, which with that little bit on the edge does make up about 1 centimetre in the middle there. I have sort of concaved it a little bit so that it goes around the corners easily, and this is so that it follows the sleepers and not so much the cork underneath. So what I do, I am starting at the end here, so you probably won't see this first bit, but just taking it up against, so all I'm doing is just, as you can see there, just pushing it up against the side of the sleepers, all the way along, keep going. So I'm now going to stick that to that side of the line, because it's the middle point, ready for the finished surface, and then build out all the webs like I was suggesting. Okay, well, there we are so far. As you can see now, I've got all the platforms in, and basically you can see like the kind of like a honeycomb effect. Now I've even done that little bit down there. That's not part of the platform. That's part of the scenery as is coming down, or the edge of the hill, if you like. So my next job is to now cover this in thin white card and then carve off the edge to make it exactly up to this edge here. So I'll get that done, and then the next bit is to then put more formers on top of that, which will then start forming the bases for the hills. Okay, I'll speak to you later. Okay, as you can see there, all I've done then is taken loads of little triangles and just stuck them all down the sides, which will then indicate the type of slope. That bit I have gone ahead a little bit there, and that is made from 2 arches. So you've got these 2, there's one fascia piece here, and there's another one sort of about there. And then I've just stuck that piece of paper in and on the back piece. This one isn't stuck yet, purely because I'm having a few issues with the buffer stop. So I may even cut this short. I don't know at the moment. If I can get the buffer stop to actually stick, then I might go for it. But I'll have a think about that for the time being. But do remember, all this will be faced. It's not going to stay like that, so it will have a facial covering over the top, and then I'll blend it in one way or another. Okay, so my next step, which I think I might show you actually a little bit, is to take some strips of paper or card and stick them at the back like that, and then just create an even surface, and then I'll go to my normal screwed up newspaper like that, and then start building up several layers of just normal A4 paper for the start, and then go to newspaper and stick that on over the top, which should give a nice hard and firm surface. Okay, so I'll see you again in a minute. Okay, it's the next day now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start covering this down here now, and I've just got a little bit of card. Now I'm only using this to strengthen up the edges down here, and then I shall cover it with just A4 paper, just crumpled up like I've done there, and then finally with the newspaper. So literally just going to dab, well, a bit of glue on the top there. It will all look a bit terrible for the start, so don't worry, everything will come together as it should. I'm really not going to be worried by it. I've done this a few times. So everything will be absolutely fine. Now, some people put newspaper in the gaps. I haven't got that much newspaper to spare, to be honest with you. Down the edge here, so that stands a chance of sticking to the back seam. Just a little bit of glue all the way down, just like that. Put that in a place where it's not going to get damaged. Like that. Stick that there, there, and there. Now I know this is an odd way of doing it, and some people wouldn't do it this way, but really doesn't make any difference whatsoever. You feel free to do this as you will. Okay. Well, the next stage is to take some A4, and the reason I'm using this is because it's stronger than newspaper at the base. But you can see what I've done there, literally just covered over the top. I must re-emphasise, I know this is a different way to everybody else, but I haven't got a massive amount of newspaper, and what I have got I want to use for the covering, not for stuffing. But not only that, this is cheap as chips. You can't get any cheaper than this, really. So all I do then is literally just put the glue on neat. I don't even water it down. The reason for that is because it would make the paper all soggy and it wouldn't go on very well. But literally just put the paper over the top. So make sure that it's got enough glue on it all the way around the hole as such, or whatever it is you're doing. And I'm just going to plonk that on the top. I am going to pull it a little bit tight because I don't want to be able to seal the ridges. I mean, you might see the odd few, but that's generally not the idea. And just put glue over the top to pack it down. See, that's wanting to push in there, and that's absolutely fine. Just following the contours. Brushing away there. So once this layer's gone on, I'll start putting newspaper over the top, probably 3 or 4 layers. But you're certainly getting the idea now. It's just a papier-mache type mix. And like I said, people do use all sorts of things, but this is just a really cheap and effective way of doing it. It does work. And if I just turn the camera there, you can see you're getting this quite bumpy looking area. I know there's some the splines still in there, but once you go over that with a bit more of a tighter feel, then it does work much nicer. Okay, so I'm going to get all that covered, and then it'll be a case of just putting another layer on like this, and then newspaper. All right, I'll speak to you soon. I thought I'd show you where I am so far. So you can see I've done all this side, and that bit over there has been covered with about 3 layers of newspaper, and I'm working my way down. But I made a bit of a boo-boo, and you may notice this sort of line running across the top of the hill there, and I'm thinking, what's that? It's the path that I meant to put on. If you saw the sketch I put on Facebook, the photograph, and then I sketched over the top, I forgot to put that in. So what I need to do is mould that back in. So all I've done is a bit of 2mm grey board, and what I will do at this end and the far end is just sort of paint the path going off into the distance. It won't be much, obviously, because it won't be much of a path there, but that one goes up towards the church in the distance there in the foreground, and also this one would work its way off towards that town over there. Okay, so I'm just working my way. I've actually started back with the paper again, the white paper, and building that back up, get some strength into it, and then I'll go over it with the newspaper like I've done at the back there. So I'll just keep going. All I've done is just stuck it on, and I'm just trying to keep the path relatively level as it would be on the real thing. But it does look a complete sight at the moment, I have to be honest. It does look a complete mess, but all will be well, I promise. I've literally just finished doing that, and it's taken quite a while. I'm on that about 3, maybe even 4 hours, trying to build up the 3 to 4 layers. And because I've used neat PVA, it's going off very, very quickly. That'll be dry within the next couple of hours, and it'll be solid. In fact, if I go up this end, excuse me, I'm kneeling down here. You can hear this here is still a bit wet, so that won't have the same noise, but that's more than firm enough. And I've also added a little bit more banking down that side as well, just to sort of even things up a little bit. I am seriously thinking, like I said before, of shortening this track so it stops just before the tunnel, and then maybe even putting a wall just slightly into the tunnel mouth. People keep mentioning Henry from Thomas and Friends, but maybe, yeah, Henry had when he was in there, he had a wall built in front of him, didn't he? So I don't think I'm going to buy a Henry though and cut the front off and stick it in there though. That's not going to happen. There we go, the paint is on. Now please understand that is a base colour. It is not the finished look by any means, but it's certainly giving you the impression now of what the whole thing's going to look like. So I am going to edge the platforms. I'm going to put a base edge on first, which will be a strip of card, 1mm, and then put 1mm slabs on top of that. And then once I've done that, I'm then going to fill with filler the surface and then create a tarmac type finish on both platforms. But this platform, well, and both of them actually, I'm going to put some bits where the tarmac's all coming up and it's not looking very good at the moment. It's all breaking up with lots of cracks in it, that type of thing. Now, what I've done is I've cut these strips and I've used, to do that, this watercolour paper. My mother used to use this for her paintings that she used to do, but any paintings I do them digitally, so I don't need this. But if you can see, it's got a lovely texture to it. Yeah, so the idea is that once the slabs are gone, the underside of that is quite rough, rubbly, and I think that will just give a nice start to the whole process. I'll put some sand and other bits on it like that. So I've cut the strips and then I've gone ahead and cut all these V shapes in it so then it goes around the corner. I am sounding quite wooden this morning, I do apologise. But anyway, so my next step now is to put glue on here. Stick that on just like that. Sort of in there. Now I must stress that although I'm testing it with the 158, it won't ever come in here. It's a passenger train, and this is most definitely a freight area. So looking at this gap here now, I'll move the camera for you so you can see. Right, hopefully if I bring this in and now move it, now I must stress, I wouldn't normally do it like this. The normal way of doing it is to run your longest coach with a pencil down the side, and you draw a line. So you either have the pencil in the middle of the coach and then run along the outside, or to one of the edges of the coach. Right, next bit. As you can see, I've got all those bases now stuck down, and I've just spent the last million years cutting out all these slabs. So quite simply, I'm going to start at one end. I'm not going to do very much with this. It's going to be fairly obvious what I'm doing. I will put a load of glue on there so I don't have to stop and start again. But, you know, take a slab and stick it on. Now, the most important part about this is making sure it goes right up to the very edge and that it creates a nice hard surface at the very edge, and all the slabs are in line, just as you would if you were laying real ones. I'm not going to put out string lines like you would do for that, but that's pretty much it. There we are. So all of those slabs are now on. Okay. Now what I'm going to do now is start putting in the tarmac, and what I'm going to use for that is this stuff. Right then, so the instructions for this stuff say give it a bit of a stir. Now, my experience of doing this sort of thing, particularly where you're putting in filler, is wet the area first. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a wet. And the reason I'm doing that is so that it's got something to bond to. If I just put it straight onto the surface, chances are it'll crack. Actually, I won't have as much as that. I just want a tiny little bit, and I'm just going to build it out from the middle. I don't really want it going all over this area if I can help it. So I'm literally just going to put it on in the middle surface up to the edge. be a bit more interesting when I get down to this far end, because the I've got the missing slabs, if you remember. So I won't, I'll just do a bit of this. I won't do it all on cam. But you'll get the idea of what it's going to look like. It's going on quite smoothly. I'm quite impressed how it is going on. Right, welcome back for the final time in this video. Now, before I show you this, do be aware this is just raw filler. It does need some extra work and does look a little bit of a mess at the moment. But once it's started to go off a bit and I can smooth it off, it will look an awful lot better. But there we go. All the platforms, well, both platforms are now done. And I've even put some up on the path, as you can clearly see there. So I want it to look like tarmac. Okay, so I'll just come back now so you can get the whole shot. So it does look a little bit weird like that, but there we are. And I think that'll do for this video. That's quite a lot. Anyway, take care of yourself and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.